Oh my goodness, it's my ugly mug on camera. Don't get that very often. So I'm at a stage where young Iago needs to learn to guide, and in a hurry. He's had an advantage in that he has been able to copy Zazu for the first 18 months of his life, who was guide trained. I am not technically visually impaired. I have Ehlers-Danlos. I also have cervical spinal cord compression. The combined effect is that I can very quickly go from I can see just fine to oh my god, my head is spinning, I have horrendous vertigo, I don't know which way up is, it's incredibly bright and I can't see properly, and everything is just too much. I also have autism, so I can get overloaded when that happens, and I cannot find doorways, entrances. I know where I want to go, but I can't get myself from point A to point B. So Zazu was taught to guide me around, of all places, the London Underground in the tube network. He knew how to get from central London all the way back to West London here. A journey of over 2 hours on very basic cues. I would like to talk to you about how we do that, because there aren't many good YouTube videos on teaching guide dogs to guide. For fairly obvious reasons, guide dogs are one of the most common dogs that are program trained, and for very good reason. But the simple basic steps of teaching guide work are foundation skills for many other dog sports and for obedience tasks and other assistance dog tasks, and we need some equipment to do that, and hopefully Iago's going to help me with that in a minute. Unfortunately, from my perspective, my little dirtbag has just had his lunch, so he's going to be less inclined to be helpful. He needs a big nap. Yes, you, sleepy boy. Targets, paw targets in particular, can be pretty much anything. I love these. They're really handy. They're flat. They're easy to store. If you're a wheelchair user like me, you can just shove them under your wheelchair. Stick a bulb of blue tack, or in this case, that was non-sealing mastic, which I can just scrape off again, on them. Good to go. They've got a rough side and a smooth side, and they make a great paw target. So what I used to use for this cue for Zazu was on your spot, he'd step 1 foot on his spot. They're not great for teaching targeting to begin with, because there's no height difference. You can use a bowl. You just turn it upside down. You'll see lots of trainers do this, and get their dog to put their front feet on the bowl and pivot around the bowl. You can use a step. You can use, as I've just shown you how to make this on one of my other videos for a lovely lass who's in the position I'm in, a yoga block or half a yoga block taped together, which can then go on to the floor and have some height to it, onto a raised object, or pretty much wherever you want it. You can use mats. You can use dog beds. Excuse the lead, it's a bit irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You have a target in mind that you want the dog to go to, and you're going to shape your dog into those targets or capture your dog stepping onto them, depending on how you like to train. But whatever we do, it's got to be pretty positive and fun. Now, like I said, Iago has just had lunch, which is going to make this a bit less interesting from his point of view, and we are going to just use with him. He knows this. Iago. Yes. And capture the feet up. Yes. So, for him, the cue is generally paws up. I can use this to keep him in one place. So it helps me so I can reach him. because obviously bending over for me is a real challenge. She's saying hi to everyone. He says, I want more sweeties. And then we can start using on different targets. Yes. We've been using the mat for a while. The Iago. Jail. Yes. Which is another paw target. Again, we use that for position, back, weight, positional training, place work, call it what you will. Iago. Spot. Yes. So I don't want him to touch it with his teeth. I wanted that paw to go on. Iago. Spot. Nope. Nope. Yes. So I'm capturing the moment his feet go on it. Step back. Yes. Oops. He says, I got to pick it up for you. This is a hazard with early stages of boundary training. They end up being used as retrievable items. So we don't want them to be retrieved. You're basically using your object as a paw target, as a place marker. Now, he knows there's some weight. Now my cue for putting his feet on things is paws up. Iago, paws up. Yeah, come on, step. Step. He says, I've never used a bowl before, Mummy. Step on it. Yes. And that's what the very first attempt ever looks like. Iago, step. Yes. And that's how we use our place marker there. So we'll replace that with something that he's a bit more familiar with. Iago, paws up. Paws up. Yes. And 2 feet on. Now he can get 2 feet on one target, as you can see. Yeah, good. Yes. And that is how we use portable targets. So what do we use those for? Well, your dog bed. You want your dog to settle on the bed. So we teach them boundary training or place training or table training, call it what you will. You're basically asking the dog to glue itself to the object. In agility, we use paw targets on the actual pieces themselves. You'll see the lower part of the agility equipment. There's the different coloured section on it, and the dog's feet have to touch that section as they go onto the obstacle and off the obstacle. That's paw targeting, and we teach them to do that at a very slow speed when we're teaching them to get on and off the obstacle as part of training for agility. You'll see a lot of other trainers using an upturned bowl to teach dogs hind-ended awareness by pivoting their front feet around the bowl. We actually have a tyre that we use outside for proprioceptive awareness or body awareness, where he has to keep all 4 paws on the rim of the tyre. A little bit more challenging, but he can spin round on that quite successfully. As you have seen, we'd never used a metal bowl before. Never really thought of something to do, but it's a very common one to use. And he was quite happy standing on the yoga block, and he can stand his front paws on one yoga block, but his feet were less than ideally positioned if he was going to be doing counterbalance work, because he is base narrow basically. And one of the things that I can use that for is to get him to actually sit on the block, so he needs the extra space. And that is a portable target or a portable bed, a portable positioning system. It is basically an anchor point where you can park your dog in space. When we use it for guiding, we use it to give the dog something to travel towards. That we know that they've got to it, because as they step onto it, we can feel through the harness that their shoulder height has changed. We can also use it to help transfer their guiding skills to other objects. So we can use it by having it on a bench, because he knows to go to the box, which is now on the bench. Basically, you add the familiar item over the unfamiliar item, and over time you remove the familiar item and have a new cue word for that object. So that's how we use it in guiding. And what we really use it for in the very earliest stages is something to travel towards, a known object where we know where it is roughly, that they can go towards. It gives them a security blanket to travel towards that object. And we can also use 2 of them or more to do our positional change directions. We can also use it for in heel work to keep the dog in the position we want them to stay in. So that's why a portable paw target object is really handy. Now, you can use a mat, but if you are visually impaired, finding a mat that you've dropped on the floor in a public place when you get to that stage of your training is not likely to be the easiest thing to do. Or if you have balance and mobility issues, picking the mat back up off the floor is also not going to be easy to do. So those little flat target discs are a nightmare to find when you cannot see them because of visual disturbance, or that is the level of your visual impairment, and they've got no height to them, so they're harder for the dog to target with his feet because there's no change in height. They're harder for you to tell whether the dog has stepped onto the object or not because there's no change in height when you touch your dog. And they are harder to retrieve off of the floor. With all those things aside, they can be excellent targets and are perfect for things like agility, where the disability aspect of not being able to pick them up or see whether your dog's stepping on it or not become irrelevant. So I hope this was helpful as to why a portable target and the type of portable target is important for the type of training you're going to do. And what I will show you as I go through teaching him to guide is how we use those targets, and I hope that can help somebody else.